Since early childhood, Lena had slipped out of her body as easily as she drifted into sleep. Yet as she grew older, the experiences began to trouble her. On quiet nights, long after her family had gone to bed, she would sit with the glow of her phone lighting her face, typing questions into the search bar. Life after death, the soul, astral travel, what happens when we die? Among all the theories, the explanations from Spiritism touched her most deeply. They spoke of reincarnation, spiritual guides, and a world beyond the physical that felt strangely familiar to her own secret experiences. Those ideas brought her comfort, as if someone were finally putting words to what she had always sensed. But she could not share any of it. Her family was strictly religious in a rigid, fearful way. Anything mysterious or beyond their doctrine was immediately labeled dangerous, dark, or wrong. Talk of spirits, past lives, or astral journeys would have been condemned. So Lena kept everything hidden, the websites she read, the videos she watched, and above all her own nightly flights. Leaving her body remained her silent reality. On most nights, when her breathing slowed and her muscles relaxed, her awareness gently slid free. Hovering above her small form curled under the blankets, she could drift through the walls, float over rooftops, and wander the silent streets while everyone else slept. She never told a soul. Night after night she rose unseen, passing closed windows and darkened gardens, sliding into houses where families dreamed, observing the world from a place where no one could touch her. It was both frightening and exhilarating, like walking alone along the edge of a cliff, feeling the invisible wind press at her back. On one particular night, the familiar shift came easily. Her body sank into stillness, and her consciousness rose like mist from water. She lifted toward the ceiling of her room and turned, expecting the usual quiet emptiness. Instead, she saw someone sitting at the head of her bed. It was an elderly man, his posture relaxed yet steady. For an instant, fear surged through her. The secret world she believed belonged only to her had been broken. Someone was clearly aware of her astral presence. Yet beneath the fear, another sensation stirred. Recognition. There was something ancient in his presence, something that felt like home. Faint memories shimmered at the edge of her awareness, unformed but familiar, as if she had known him many times before under different names and faces. She sensed that he had been near during her journeys for years, hidden just beyond the range of her perception, watching and waiting. His eyes held a strange blend of gentleness and firmness, as though he had waited a very long time and had finally chosen this moment to be seen. Now, he stepped forward because he believed she was ready. Without words, he conveyed that he was an old friend from other lives, a guide who had followed her across incarnations. He had remained in the background through her childhood, allowing her to explore and become comfortable in the astral realm. But the time had come to move beyond wandering. Her ability was not only for curiosity and adventure, it could be used to help. Lost and unhappy souls lingered in the shadows between worlds, and she was ready for her first mission, to help one of them find the path of light. He extended an invisible hand toward her. Trust rose up, stronger than fear. She reached with her own subtle form, and as they touched, a surge of calm and strength flowed through her. Together they rose, passing effortlessly through the ceiling and roof, ascending into the cool night above the city. Below them, streets stretched like dark veins lined with sleeping houses. Street lamps glowed like scattered stars, and the few moving cars became faint trails of light. From above, the city looked fragile and hushed. The old man guided their flight with ease, directing them toward a quieter neighborhood at the edge of town, where small houses clustered close together. They descended toward a humble home with worn paint and an overgrown garden. Inside, through the thin veil of the astral view, Lena sensed a heavy sadness. In the kitchen, a tired mother sat at the table with two small children, doing her best to keep some pattern of normal life as they shared a simple meal. Grief thickened the air around them like smoke. In the living room, Just beyond the doorway, a man sat slumped in a battered armchair. His form was no longer physical, but still dense with attachment to the familiar fabric beneath him. His expression was twisted with confusion and pain. He watched his family in the other room, convinced they were ignoring him, convinced they had chosen to shut him out. The sting of this imagined rejection was sharper than any physical agony. Impressions rose within Lena, telling her the story. The man had died only a week earlier from a sudden heart problem. He remembered a crushing pain in his chest, then the collapse. He remembered waking on the same floor and seeing his own body lying motionless, while paramedics worked frantically over it. He had watched as his body was carried away in an ambulance. Yet he had remained in the house, standing in the corner, breathing without lungs, thinking without a brain, certain it was all some strange, temporary nightmare. Unable to accept his death, he returned again and again to his favorite armchair, convinced that if he stayed close enough, life would somehow return to normal. His family mourned, prayed, and tried to adjust, but their inability to see or hear him felt, to him, like deliberate rejection. He did not understand that he was the one who had changed. He believed they had turned away. Lena moved closer, carrying a calm, steady presence. The man felt it before he clearly perceived her, a gentle warmth cutting through the numbing haze of his grief. For the first time since his passing, someone in his strange new reality was fully aware of him. Through silent images and feelings, she helped him see the truth. She replayed the moment of his collapse, the efforts to save him, the funeral he had watched from the edge of awareness. She showed him his body at rest, the touch of his wife's hand on the coffin, the children clinging to each other. Slowly the reality of his situation seeped in. Shock loosened, giving way to a raw but clearer understanding. She helped him realize that he was not excluded from his family's love. He had simply crossed into another state of existence. His wife and children could not see him, but their love still reached him, even across the thin border between worlds. He did not need to cling to the house to remain connected. In a higher, brighter realm he could heal, regain clarity, and wait for them in peace, surrounded by spirits who could see and help him. His reluctance remained strong. He feared abandoning his family, feared that leaving the house meant losing them forever. Patiently, Lena surrounded him with reassurance, showing how his heavy presence kept the atmosphere dense and painful, like a wound that could not close. By moving on, he would ease their path as well as his own. The bond between them was of spirit, not walls and furniture. Their journeys would cross again in time, in other circumstances. As his resistance softened, a soft radiance formed before him, a doorway made of light instead of wood. It pulsed gently, filled with warmth that spoke to the deepest part of his being. Within it, he sensed familiar, welcoming presences. Though he could not yet see their faces clearly, the old man beside Lena remained steady and strong, supporting the moment without interfering. The father looked toward the kitchen, toward his family at the table, then toward the doorway of light and the two spiritual figures nearby. At last, understanding outweighed fear. Stepping into the light no longer felt like abandoning his loved ones, but like trusting a larger plan that held them all. With a last lingering awareness of the home he cherished, he turned and moved into the radiance. As he entered, his form brightened and gradually dissolved, absorbed into the gentle glow, until he vanished from the house, though not from existence. The atmosphere in the home shifted almost imperceptibly. Grief remained, but some of its sharpness eased, as if an invisible tension had finally released. The children responded to a small remark from their mother with a brief, quiet laugh. In that simple sound, a fragile spark of hope returned to the room. Lena felt the completion of the mission as a deep, satisfying peace. The old man's hand closed gently around hers once more, and together they rose through the roof of the humble house, leaving the sleeping neighborhood below. The city passed under them like a dark map, until the familiar outline of Lena's own home appeared. They descended into her room, where her physical body still lay in quiet rest. Before she fully returned, the old man shared one final truth through a wave of knowing. The soul they had just guided into the light was, in the spiritual world, his own son, and in distant incarnations, a brother to Lena herself. This mission was not random. It was the completion of a long story of shared journeys and promises honored through time. With that understanding warming her heart, Lena slipped back into her body. Her eyes opened to the darkness of her room, but nothing felt quite the same. From that night on, whenever she left her body, she did so knowing she was not wandering alone. The quiet, steady presence of her old friend was always nearby, and somewhere in the vast spaces between worlds, other souls waited in the shadows, ready to be guided home to the light. This story was sent to us by a viewer who contacted the channel and wanted to share her real paranormal experience. If you want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.